good afternoon, and welcome to the new look. Let's Talk Dallas Cowboys here on the Let's Talk Sports Network.
Let's go.
My name is Alan, as always. You can find me on Twitter today, Peralez 30. And this season, for this year's games, I'm not going to be doing this alone. I've got two gentlemen joining me for the ride this season. Flo and Canteen from the Bottom Line Sports. Gentlemen, welcome. How you guys doing?
Good, Let's go. It's Cowboy time, baby.
Yeah, it is. It is, man. It's time, man.
It's only fitting for, as we jump right into it, it's only fitting that the first game of the week is Sunday Night Football, and it's against the Giants. It just seems like it's the perfect formula.
It seems like that's the right thing.
It's what they've been doing for years now. Cowboys Giants is their moneymaker at the end of the day. So this is a big matchup. The Giants did a lot to improve on their side. Cowboys made some moves to improve on their side. We'll start with the offense here. What do we expect to see from Mike McCarthy this year as far as his play calling is concerned? And Flo, we'll start with you.
You would think, you'd be a little more balanced, with the run and the pass. It's always seemed like Kellen Moore was always passing when he should be running when he should be passing. I just think it'd be a little more what do they call the Texas Coast offense? Kind of like a blend with the West Coast and the Texas Coast. The West Coast is kind of like underneath stuff, slants. You spread out the defense and things like that. And then you transition into later on some play action and some sluggos where you play like you're doing the slant and then you have a go, and that's when you get a big play. And I think that's going to be easier for Dak because it's up tempo. The pace is going to be just a little bit faster, but you're not going to have all the bells and whistles that you would with a Kellen Moore. All the motion, all the different pre-snap stuff. You're just going to be first reads and quick slants and getting it down the field. Get your playmakers in open space, to try and make a move. And then sometime during the game or sometime during the series, you try and hit one down the field, do a little play action, things like that. And so I think it's going to be a little bit better for Dak specifically. I don't think Kellen Moore, his offense fit Dak. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what I expect. I don't think Kellen Moore, he can throw it, but he's not a guy who needs to. Once he gets over about 30, 32 attempts, he's just not a guy that can throw it that many times. He's not proficient.
Well, it also,
I will say 30.
This. I was going to say, it also helps when you have a Hall of Fame tight end as a security blanket, too.
Well,
so
yeah, that helps, too.
That's a big part of it. Canteen, what do you feel?
Man, here's what I think. I'm kind of afraid of, what's the coach's name? Mike
McCarthy?
McCarthy. I would lean more towards the offensive coordinator making those decisions and making the plays. I think with what the Cowboys do have, they're probably going to do a lot of, like Flo said, a lot of slants, a lot of run routes, a lot of routes where they're dumping the ball because you got three of the best receivers in CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and Gallup. And, before you came on, Flo, I was telling my man here, Alan, like, how do we really utilize a guy like Tony Pollard? Is Tony Pollard going to be able to produce like a guy like Elliott? Is he going to be able to carry that ball and carry the weight to run the offense? So that's why I think they'll be better offensively by putting the ball in the air and throwing the ball and using the running back on short routes, like 2 and 3 or 3 and 2 or, fourth downs or different things like that, 1 and 5 or whatever to utilize a small amount of yards. But when you're trying to make big plays and different things, throw the ball and put the ball in the air is what I'm thinking. Right. If Dak can step up to that.
Yeah, and I think it fits Pollard better the way that the West Coast runs because you're going to do those swing passes. You're going to have those little passes out to the receiver, which will be the extension to the run, which is kind of what the West Coast offense does. It dumps it off to the screens and little dump offs to the running back as an extension of the run game. So I think it fits Pollard more because Pollard is a good pass catcher. He can get out in open space and make people miss. And I think that's where you want Pollard. You don't want him crashing into the middle of the line all game. You want him out in space where he can make somebody miss. And I think that's going to help Pollard. And I think we've got a good enough stable of running backs where you can get somebody else to crash in the middle and do that kind of thing. And then you've got the change of pace with Deuce Vaughn. And I think that's going to help out a lot. That's going to not let you waste Pollard on too many carries, too many plays, you can still limit him to about 20. Where he's comfortable, where you keep him healthy.
So like 20 carries a game.
20 touches. I'm thinking 20
touches.
to 25 touches, whether it's carrying or little passes, or even where he takes off down the sideline a few times. Give him about 20 to 25 touches, and I think you're good to go with him. And then spread that out with Rico and Deuce Vaughn, and I think you're good.
I think he get probably be like a 10-10, maybe a 12-12 kind of night, because that seems like what they like doing with Pollard is like splitting him up, running and catching the ball out of the backfield.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying, about 20 touches. 20 touches a game. I think that'd be good for him. Give him about 12 to 13, 14 carries, and then about 5 or 6, passing it, whether it's a dump off or things like that.
How many yards you project for a guy like Pollard per game? 185?
I think he'll get over 100, but it'll be from scrimmage, yards from scrimmage. It won't be rushing all. I think he can average over 100 from scrimmage, passing and pass catching and running. I think he's capable of that, because he can break off a few, and he'll have a couple games where he'll have over 150 or 175 yards passing and catching and running. And so he'll have some big games, but he'll also have some games where he barely taps 100. And so I think he'll average around that 100 space yards from scrimmage, kind of the Marshall Faulk type. Right.
So do you think Rico becomes kind of the new Zeke in a way, as he's maybe the short down back, or do you think they use the fullback for that? Because they have a fullback on roster now. So, what do you think about that?
What's his name? What's his name? I can't remember.
Lukey? Hunter Lukey?
Lukey, yeah. I like him. I think they use him for those short. Hunter Lukey, yeah. I think they use him for those short type plays that Zeke used to do. And I think they use both. It depends on what you're looking for. I think it depends on, are you looking for just a short 1 yard run? I think depending on what they see in the defense or what they've been seeing from this particular team, they'll use Lukey or they'll use Rico, depending on what that team runs normally in their defensive schemes. And so I think Lukey becomes a solid player. He can also catch too. So you can use him as a guy who maybe you might, it looks like it could be a run play, and then he runs out a little swing play to the left or the right, and he catches it and makes gets 10, 15 yards or whatever.
Oh, I was gonna say, remember Mike McCarthy in Green Bay used John Kuhn a lot, so there's going to be a role for Lukey in this offense, because Mike McCarthy does like using the fullback. So
right. And I think that was kind of just a happenstance. I don't think they thought they were going to keep a fullback until they saw what he could do. I think it was the last preseason game where he actually kind of broke out a little bit, and they were like, "Oh, this kid could be something for like a fullback or something." Yeah, I think they took him as a flyer. He's a rookie. They took him as a flyer. Hey, maybe he can do something. Let's see what he can do. Let's see what the kid can do. And he showed a little something. And you're like, man, we need a big guy. Zeke's gone. We need somebody who can pound it and maybe even do a little pass catching and give us a few goal line yards and things like that. So I think they found that guy kind of just by happenstance. Hey, they brought him up and been for a cup of coffee, and they're like, hey, come in and have some dinner with us.
So the rule of thumb with the Giants game is there's always that one guy that nobody knows that usually has a breakout game. A few years ago it was Kevin Ogletree. Last year it was Noah Brown. There's a couple others that come to mind. Obviously, the tight ends usually have a big game against the Giants. That's where Dalton Schultz kind of broke out and became kind of that lead tight end for the Cowboys for the last few years. Mm-hmm. Who do you think in this, whether it's running back, wide receiver, tight end, whatever, who do you think that really nobody's really paying attention to could have a big game against the Giants Sunday night?
What's that canteen ticket?
What do you think? I'm probably go with Pollard, man. Because I mean, like from last year, I didn't really have there weren't no big expectations out of him, and they know him, but I mean, has he really like just jumped out there and did it like CeeDee Lamb or Cooks or those guys like that? So I'm thinking if they utilize and set up the offense right and utilize Pollard and such, I think he'll have a breakout game. And also that fullback, nobody's ever heard of him. This kid from North Dakota State, nobody. I mean, and I'm not saying North Dakota State is like a they were FCS school or whatever. They're not like a big school, but I think if they utilize him and Pollard in such a way, I think they'll have an exceptional night.
Yeah.
Those names from Dallas.
The pride of Trey Lance. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you could see, and it maybe not this game, but in these early games, you could see Jalen Tolbert maybe have a couple of big plays.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of on the radar. He's kind of that wide receiver 4, and they might put him in certain plays, and he had a good preseason. And I think also Deuce Vaughn. And I know people are kind of paying attention to, but nobody nationally has really been said a whole lot of him. And they're going to get introduced to Deuce Vaughn. I think he may have a couple of breakaway type plays, and they're going to be like, man, look at that guy. They're going to make comparisons to all the little guys, throughout the league that are kind of like him. But I think Deuce Vaughn could have a breakout game, either him or Jalen Tolbert, kind of under the radar, so to speak. Those are the guys that, on offense, especially, that I see that could have good games.
Mm-hmm. If there's one thing I think this Mike McCarthy offense will help, I think it'll help the tight ends. So with that said, I think Jake Ferguson's in line to have a big year this year. Obviously, he's been working out with Kelsey and Kittle in the offseason, which is great, learning from those guys.
Yeah.
Him, Hendershot, you will see Schumacher probably a little bit. I think we'll see Jake Ferguson have a big game, because usually it's either a tight end that has a big game or it's that unknown receiver. And you're right. I like Jalen Tolbert a lot. I think he made a great jump from last year to this year.
Great jump.
I think he's going to be kind of like what Cedric Wilson was for us a few years ago, where he's that number 4 that just flew down the middle of the field and caught a lot of balls. So Jalen Tolbert could be that for us this year.
Yeah, he could be that guy that kind of just gets you one or two big plays or get you a big first down when you need something. And I think that he could have a little bit. And I think Michael Gallup will have a better year. I think another year removed from that ACL. I think last year he wasn't quite right. He was coming off that injury, but it always takes, with those ACLs, really, it takes you about 18 months to really get fully healthy. I think last year
I was going to say all reports in camp say that he's back to Michael Gallup form. So
that's what I'm saying. It takes about 18 months. Last year he seemed a little tentative still. Maybe he wasn't confident in that knee. He was, you know what I'm saying? When you come off an injury like that, sometimes it takes a little while to get your confidence back.
Yeah.
And so, and just to feel fully normal, right? And I think he's back to normal. And I think you're going to see a lot from Michael Gallup, as an MG, as they call him in Cowboy camp. I think you're going to see a lot from him. Brandon Cooks is a great addition. He's not necessarily under the radar, but I think that 1, 2, 3 wide receiver, we might have one of the best 1, 2, 3 in the league, a top 5 at the very least in all the NFL.
Mm-hmm. It's a good core. I think it's more of an underrated core. It gets kind of put under the radar at times.
Right.
Obviously, you got 88 there. CeeDee Lamb's going to be the guy that gets
right.
The most
that's the
attention.
Everybody points to. Yeah.
But Brandon Cooks has been a 1,000-yard receiver for most of his career.
It's funny.
And Gallup when he's healthy, he's an impact player. So
right.
What do you guys think about Jalen Brooks? What do you guys think about Brooks? Kid out of what's the name? I think he's out of Carolina, South Carolina.
South Carolina, yeah, the rookie.
Yeah. You think he'd be pretty decent?
Maybe not this year. I don't know. I mean, he's so down the depth chart. He may not see a lot of time.
I think he's number 6 right now.
Yeah,
He's behind Turpin. He's behind Turpin.
Who's back there? Who's back there on kick returns? I know that
Turpin
is
I think
Turpin returns.
Turpin's probably the punt returner. It'll be Deuce Vaughn, I would say.
Probably as a kick returner.
Yeah.
With back there okay.
Because Deuce did that a lot at Kansas State. So
yeah. I think Jalen Brooks is good because he's a big body. He's like 6'2", So I think I like him. He's a big body, but he's a rookie, right? He's out of South Carolina. You saw a lot more of him over there in SEC country. What do you think of Jalen Brooks, Canteen? You think he could be an impact player right away?
Nah, give him some time to develop, man.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Give him some time to develop, man.
And I think
I think he played with the kid. What was that kid? Spencer Rattler or whatever. Played with him, and he played under.
Right. Yeah.
Beamer played for Beamer a little bit, man.
Ooh, we got bad memories for
Beamer.
Rattler. No, Rattler.
You don't like Rattler? You don't like it?
Rattler we had here in Norman for the first 2 years of his.
That's right. You did. That's right. You did.
Yeah. And then he got benched for Caleb Williams, and then that whole thing happened, and then both of them ended up leaving because of Lincoln Riley and Now,
brings out some bad memories.
I'll be honest. I like our offense this year. I think it's gotten a lot better. They definitely got some more impact wide receiver help other than just Marvin Mims. I love Anderson Jr. a lot. I think he's going to be a big time player for us.
And I think Turpin might have a good season returning this year. Last season, he had a big.
He was a couple. You saw it. There was a couple games. He was a couple inches away from breaking.
Yeah, he had that big one in preseason, and we were like, "Yeah, he's going to return like 6 punts or 6 whatever."
There were times like half of his kick returns were all into opposing territory.
But
almost.
I think his second year,
he just needs that one little break, and he's gone.
If he get past that first string of defenders, I think he's gone. And I think being in the system, being in the NFL, and the year before he came out of the USFL, so he was, he's not used to the speed. So now I think he's used to more how the NFL works and how the blocking schemes are for the Cowboys. And I think you give him a little seam, man, he's gonna break one, man. That guy can break one for sure. I'm looking for him to break one. It'd be great to break it right here, the first game of the season, man. Him to break. I don't care, a punt, kick return. I don't care. Just break one, man. That would be.
That's why I feel putting Deuce at kick returners because he has that quickness to move around. It's not quite Barry Sanders-esque, but it's more. A lot of people compare him to another Kansas State guy, Darren Sproles, because of the size. But he's got that same kind of quickness, that same kind of burst of speed. You get him into the open field, he can go at it. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun watching between him, Turpin, and I think Dowdle might return kicks here or there too. Maybe even CeeDee Lamb. Who knows? It'd be fun watching.
I don't know if they'll put CeeDee out there though. I don't think they'll put CeeDee back there.
It'll be fun watching. It'll be fun watching special teams this year though.
It'll be fun. I don't think they want to risk him getting injured. So I think he's your
unless you need like a big time return impact thing.
Right. Maybe they'll put him back. But
kind of like what they did with Dez when he was here. Like anytime they needed a big return or something to kind of get them kickstarted, they always put Dez back there.
Yeah.
They need Dez Bryant back, man. I swear, man.
Especially with Twitter now.
Yeah.
I need to say sell Twitter to Dez. You can make a mint off of that.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, man. I thought they got rid of Dez too soon, but that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then he had the injury down in New Orleans, and that kind of just put icing on the cake for him, man.
Yeah. Well, he never was quite right. He never was quite right, after he got that injury, and then, he tried to, come back. I think was he the Ravens last?
Yeah, I think so. The Ravens and Saints, I think.
Yeah, Saints. Okay, yeah. And then, I don't know. I feel bad for Dez. Dez was one of my favorite players. The catch, no catch, that was a killer. That's the worst.
Oh, that Green Bay game. Ooh.
Oh, man. That's the game. I think we could have gone to the Super Bowl if they hadn't taken that catch.
Was that the year Atlanta went?
Huh?
That was that year Green Bay, when we beat at Green Bay, yeah.
Yeah, that's a year.
When I used to be a Falcon fan, but that's the year that Atlanta beat Green Bay. Let me caveat.
Yeah.
It would have been Atlanta and Dallas in the NFC Championship.
That was Dak and Zeke's rookie year. That was Dak and Zeke's rookie year.
That was that 2016. No, that was Romo. The catch, no catch. The catch, no catch.
The catch, no catch. That was 2 years prior, I believe. That was 14.
That was 14.
Okay, so Romo.
The year Canteen's talking about, that was Dak and Zeke. That was their
that was Dak and Zeke. Yeah. That year, maybe I think that year and the year catch no catch was our two best Super Bowl years. If they would have brought Romo back and give him his job back, I think we go to the Super Bowl one of those years. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. Yeah. What you got, man?
So let's move to the defense here. Okay. Obviously, the big move is that Micah Parsons is going to be a full-time pass rusher now.
Right.
Coming off the edge, they're basically listed him as a defensive end at this point.
Right.
He's got a big. He feels like he's got a big chip on his shoulder. He's hungry. He's ready for action. How big of an impact right away do you see Micah Parsons making as a full-time pass rusher?
Go ahead, Canty.
Man, with him being he's usually playing linebacker, right? That's
he kind of splits time. He splits time, As a new Cowboy fan, you got to come on board and fully embrace it.
This for me. This will be interesting to see him like being a full-time pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of occupying the same position that DeMarcus Lawrence occupies. Do I think he's capable? I think he's more than capable, and I think we'll see a lot of what he's capable of doing when they play on tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he can rush back there and get to Daniel Jones because I mean, I don't know what the offensive line looks like for the Giants or their
they have decent tackles. I mean, Andrew Thomas, I believe this is his third year. And then Evan Neal kind of struggled a bit last year, so they might put Micah on the side where Evan Neal's at. So we'll wait and see on that. But
for sure,
it's going to be fun. I'm excited to see what he can do on defense.
What he can do, absolutely.
Yeah, I am too. I think that based on what we saw last year, he had 13 sacks and 13 and a half last year, and that was split in time. So I think as a full-time pass rusher, I think they're still going to try and use him, make him maybe play off and maybe back off and do some coverage stuff. But he's going to be mainly a pass rusher now, and I think he's going to, right now I think he's the odds-on favorite for Defensive Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's for a reason. I mean, he had 37 solo tackles and 65 tackles total last year. 3 forced fumbles and 3 recovery fumbles, and I think this year
that touchdown against Chicago.
Yeah, the one touchdown that he got, scoop and score that he got, and so I think he's got a really good shot at making an impact early. Like you said, they're gonna. That's the guy they're gonna pay attention to. But I think his impact could also be the fact that people pay more attention to him, and then you got D-Law or Tank. You got him being able to make get some sacks as well because they're paying so much attention to where Mike is at and where he's lined up, and because they're trying to protect to that side. I think that'll give D-Law a little more room to work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think his impact could be twofold: his sacks, and then also the attention he draws to give the other guys ability to go one-on-one on some of these guys. And like you said, the offensive line has not been very good, except for was it Thomas? You said.
Thomas is okay. He's been here.
Yeah, he's the only one that's
third year.
Right. He's the only one, but I think they're rated one of the lower offensive lines. I think they were ranked worst last year.
What, the Giants?
Yeah, they were ranked one of the worst offensive lines last year. And so, I mean, Thomas is obviously their best guy, but they weren't very good protecting. And Daniel Jones was running around quite a bit. And Thomas was their only really bright spot. So I think if they're paying attention to Micah and Micah's causing havoc, I think that could open it up for the other guys on the defensive line.
Mm-hmm. What does bringing in a veteran like a Stephon Gilmore in the secondary do to help this pass rush?
Really can.
I guess it kind of offsets the defense. I think he brings balance and experience. I was just about to pull it up, man. When you look at the other defensive backs, you got a guy named Devin Harper. I see. I think his name Devin Harper, and I know this other kid that came out of Clemson, Curse. He's a Clemson kid, so
Curse J-Ron.
Yeah, J-Ron Curse, and then you got
you have J-Ron. Donovan Wilson, I think, is going to be there. You'll have a little bit of. Yeah,
Wilson's
you'll have Malik Hooker. I think I think Wilson's still hurt, but you'll have Malik Hooker.
Right.
And Trayvon Diggs, right?
You'll have Diggs, you'll have
and Dayron Bland was a bright spot last year too as a rookie. So I think he'll step up a little bit. But I think Gilmore
I like Eric Scott too. I like Eric Scott and what he did this preseason. So
and I think what Gilmore does is he brings experience and he's able to kind of show some of the stuff that he's learned throughout his years and be able to teach him some of those tricks of the trade, especially to Diggs, who's young. It's only his third year, and he could benefit from Gilmore's experience. Hey, look, this is how we should run this because this has worked, and I think he's willing to learn from him and not get because everybody would especially after his I think was it his rookie year he got all the interceptions or whatever. I think everybody played him on the double move, and everybody he's susceptible to the double move. And I think last year he proved that he can adjust his game, and I think having Gilmore there teaching him the tricks of the trade a little better, I think that'll improve not only that he's an excellent corner, but also improve Diggs in his skills, becoming more of a complete cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Speaking of Diggs real quick, a lot of people got their bank this offseason. Diggs was one of them. Terrence Steele recently just got paid. Zach Martin just got paid. A couple others, I believe, just got paid. I was actually going to say, is Micah the next one? Is Micah going to get that max deal next, or does it go to CeeDee Lamb? Maybe these are the two guys that are probably going to get the bag next, or CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons. So
here's what I would do. Here's my take on the back between both of those guys, man. I look at and this is our opponent, whatever. When the Giants gave Daniel Jones all that money, they should have split it down the middle. They could have compensated both Daniel Jones and they should have compensated both Saquon Barkley, because Saquon Barkley only shot himself in the foot by signing the tag, and he got a deal and he signed the tag. If I had to pick between Parsons, go ahead, Flo.
Well, I was gonna say, I think it's a tough call, but I think because CD's been there a year longer, you've really got to get him signed to a longer term deal. And that way, and then you tell Micah, hey, we're not going to sign you, but next year we'll get you that deal. We got to take care of CD this year. And I think next year, the following year, they're going to promise Micah, and he'll get taken care of it. So I think CD gets first because he was been there longer. Jerry always takes care of his draft picks. They're like his kids, right? If he drafts them, he takes care of them, sometimes to his own detriment, like he did for Zeke. But I'm saying I think that CD gets that big contract next, and then the following year they take care of Micah. That's where I see it.
Mm-hmm. Or they could pull some money and do it in the offseason both times.
It'll also
depend on certain things that happen during the season. But yeah, I think you're right. I know Jerry likes taking care of his players. He
once he drafts, man, that's why he let Amari go, because he was just a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when he should.
But do you think that was a bad? Do you think that? I think that was a bad move letting Amari Cooper go.
I think it was too, but I mean, it is what it is. I think they saw CD as taking over the wide receiver 1 slot. So they
gave him 88 for a reason,
right? I mean, they saw him taking over that spot, so I thought they figured they move on. And
he proved it. He's proved it so far.
Yeah, he's proved that
great.
It would be great to have Amari and CD, right? I mean, if you think about it, but I mean, I think Jerry's always a little easier to pull the trigger on releasing a guy if he's a free agent, if he's a guy he didn't draft. If it's a guy he drafted,
I think that's why he made. That's why he made the
affinity.
move for Brandon Cooks, is because he realized late in that year the struggles that the wide receiver room was having. And having a complimentary number 2 to CD Lamb is definitely where.
I mean, getting Brandon Cooks proves he thought he knows that was a mistake. He won't admit it, but getting Brooks in there, I mean, Cooks in there. I think getting Cook in there is a proof that he knows he made a mistake by letting Amari go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Amari Cooper was good, man.
No, he's good. He's great.
He's going to do good this year. He's going to do good with Cleveland this year, I feel.
Yeah, he will. And I think the thing was Amari sometimes he kind of disappeared in some of the games that really, really needed him. But there was times he made some great catches as well.
I mean, especially against like Washington and Philly. Those are like the 2 big games that he showed up in.
Yeah, and I think if another year with him and CD together, I think it could have been great. But I mean, hey, they let him go. What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So with all the contract talks, the big one, of course, is going to be the quarterback, and that's Dak Prescott. And there's Canteen and I were talking about this earlier. There's still a lot of questions out on what Dak is going to be this year. Obviously, a more QB-friendly offense with Mike McCarthy could help him a little bit. Plus, that giant chip on his shoulder now that they traded for Trey Lance, which is, again, a move that nobody really thought was going to happen. Jerry kind of did it behind.
You were thinking Kyler Murray.
I was thinking Kyler, next year, but Trey Lance, I was like, oh, that's out of
okay, before we get into that crap, I got one question for you, Alan, that came into mind. You two, Canteen. What's the over-under on Trey running 10 plays this year? What do you think? Does he run 10 or more? I think a package for him, especially in the goal line or wherever. Don't you think they're going to get some packages for him? Something? I don't know. What do you think?
They might use. I know Dak's mobility is kind of limited now after his injury, so they might throw Trey in there for like some read option type stuff. You never know,
right?
Which is what he kind of excels at. That's not something that Kyle Shanahan ran. at San Francisco.
Right.
I know he had the weapons to do it, but most of the quarterbacks, you see it when he had success, and Canteen knows this. Whenever he was in Atlanta, he had the most success with Matt Ryan, who's a pocket passer. So and it's kind of what Jimmy Garoppolo was. He was a pocket passer.
Right.
And that's what Kirk Cousins was in Washington. He was a pocket passer.
Right.
So
hey, and this is another thing real quick. So you think they'll put in some packages for Trey's, what I'm hearing?
Yeah, they might do some read option stuff, especially when you got guys like Tony Pollard and Deuce Vaughn who have speed. That could be deadly.
And I had an epiphany. You know what? I think Purdy is Dak Prescott. Purdy's Dak Prescott. He can move around a little. He doesn't have a great arm. He's got a little wiggle to him. I think he runs a little less, but he's basically that. He manages the game. He's not.
I'll take Prescott over Purdy.
But I'm just saying he's a young Prescott. I think he's.
I was going to say, Flo, we saw a lot of him in the Big 12 at Iowa State.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of what he was. He's kind of was Dak Prescott.
That's what I'm saying. I think he's Dak Prescott before he started throwing it more, and that's why many people think that Kyle Shanahan will eventually go and try to get Cousins when he's available, because that's what he wants at quarterback.
Now, here's what I think.
He doesn't really want Purdy, but Purdy won the job, and so it's kind of hard to get rid of him. And I think he's more of a guy who can run an RPO, who can do the underneath stuff, he can make good, quick decisions, and he's like a Dak Prescott, except but I think Shanahan wants a pocket guy, like you said. And Purdy's not that. He's not.
I mean, it's like I was saying before, and it's like, Canteen can tell you right away he had the most success with a pocket passer in Matt Ryan the year they went to the Super Bowl. So
easy. And then Shanahan just lost his mind and kept trying to throw the ball. And we should have ran the ball to burn out the clock, and we would have won the Falcons would have won the Super Bowl.
I mean, you look at that NFC title game. I think it was the year that they went in San Francisco. I think it was the game they had against not the Kansas City Super Bowl, but the NFC title game before.
Yeah,
Garoppolo only threw 3 passes. They ran it the entire game.
Yeah,
had success. So
yeah.
But I think
your Dak Prescott question now.
What, Trey Lance will get how many touches? I think he'll get more than 10.
No. Oh, okay. No, I was thinking he was going into the Dak Prescott topic, and I just kind of brought up Trey.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Alan.
With Dak here, what do we think could happen with him this year? How much pressure is on Dak Prescott this year?
You want to go, Ken? You want me to go?
Man, we just talked about this earlier. I mean, Dak Prescott got a lot riding on his career, his livelihood, and what's going to happen with him next. There's a reason they brought in Trey Lance. I think they brought in Trey Lance to kind of develop him, looking at maybe he's the future of the Dallas Cowboy organization. But then I think that's like a slap in the face where you're spitting on Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush is a pretty good quarterback. Cooper Rush had a really, really decent season. I gotta give it to Cooper Rush in those clutch games, and when it mattered the most, Cooper Rush came through.
Look, Canteen,
come on, Flo, you gotta give him that, man.
You a young Cowboy fan. Every Cowboy fan who's been around for a minute, they all know Cooper is a backup. He's a backup. He's a good backup. Can win you a couple games, but he's not.
But you won't put him in the shoot. You won't put him in the shoot at all.
No, he's clearly a second guy. He's a guy that Jerry wants to keep around as a backup, and I think he brought in Trey Lance.
He's a really good backup. He manages the offense.
Backup, he's a backup, and we know that he's not
perfect example. Perfect example. You saw it in the Philly game last year in Philly. He struggled. He struggled big time.
Yeah, when he's that quarterback,
that defense tore him apart. So
he makes good decisions. He's a solid backup. When he's in there, we average like 17 points a game. We're not going to be high scoring. The defense, he's going to do his job and go in there and back up Dak Prescott. But they don't
have the running game this year for a kind of like what Cooper Rush's style is.
Right.
Plus,
okay,
so you saw in the Minnesota game. You saw in the Minnesota game his first game. Obviously back when what. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name now. I just said it. Cedric Wilson. He had the big pass to Cedric Wilson, which was a touchdown. And then he had the touchdown pass to CeeDee Lamb, which was I believe that miraculous catch he had falling down on his back.
Yeah.
Which was amazing to watch.
Right.
other than that, he managed the game. He managed the game against the Bengals going in. The Rams are a mess, so I don't really count that. Plus, that was Tony Pollard's game. The Giants, obviously, that was a close game. Saquon played great in that game. Daniel Jones just kind of threw that game away. A couple others, like you said, you went 5-1, and the time Dak was gone, and then that's real. The fact that he was able to do that is impressive. I give more credit to Mike McCarthy because he was able to rally the team around Cooper Rush, and they were able to play great defense in those 6 games. So I too, and I'll give Dan Quinn credit too for that. So
and Dak,
it's not like I said, it's not like he can't play when called upon. When called upon, he can come in and he can get the job done.
Yeah, but he's a backup.
I don't think he's a 17 game starter.
Right.
He's kind of like he's Jacoby Brissett. He's Jacoby Brissett is what he is.
He's a little better than Jacoby Brissett, basically.
Yeah, okay.
He's better than Jacoby Brissett, but
he's a backup.
He's better than Jacoby Brissett. He's just in that Jacoby Brissett.
He's a solid backup that can give you 3 or 4 or 5 games.
I'll say it right now. He's the best backup in the NFL.
Probably. He probably could.
He's the best backup in the NFL.
I'll give him that. But yeah, I think, like you said, I think there is a lot of pressure on Dak this year. I think getting Trey even puts more pressure on him. Kind of like
I think it motivates him. I think it'll motivate him a little bit more.
I think almost in the mold of, remember when they got Jordan Love and Aaron didn't like it. I mean, he wasn't going to take Aaron's job the next year, or even the next couple. Right. But basically, they were saying, "Hey, we got your predecessor. We got the guy going to come and take your job eventually." I think that's that's what Aaron read.
That's a habit that Green Bay has. And what did the same thing that happened with Brett Favre?
And what did Aaron do? Is he went out and had an MVP season. And I think that's what it's going to do for Dak a little bit. It's going to push him to be good and show, hey, look, okay, you got somebody you think who can replace me, or will replace this. And I think that's going to motivate Dak to be better. And I think a lot of people, especially the haters out there, I've been watching some of these content. Let me say this real quick. One of these content creators, they've been talking about Dak, he's trash and this and that. And he's not trash. And they always bring up, he threw the most interceptions. I mean, Eli Manning threw the most interceptions almost every year, and they don't call him trash. What I'm saying is, last year he was hurt. He came back, and I don't think that thumb was quite right when he came back. I think he kind of rushed back. And I think that thumb was part of the reason he had more INTs. Plus, some of those were not on Dak. Some of those were on the receivers running the wrong route, and a la something like Tony did, where it goes off his hands and goes into another person's, goes into the defensive hands, off a bounce, pass. And so I think a lot of those weren't Dak's fault, even though he threw the most interceptions or whatever. And so the haters.
Who else threw a lot of interceptions last year? Josh Allen.
Yeah, but this is true. What were you gonna say, Cam?
He gets praise at Buffalo. Again,
exactly.
This is why I said that Buffalo. This is why I said Buffalo wasn't going to be a playoff team this year, because I thought
their window's closed. Their window's closed. Their Super Bowl window.
I think that's what I predicted too. And the caveat on what you were saying about Prescott,
okay,
I think Dak Prescott is going to show us who he is in the first 4 or 5 weeks. If he's capable of carrying this team the distance, as we talked about, me and Alan talked about earlier, we open up. We got the Giants, we got the Jets, we got Arizona at Arizona, we got Patriots in Dallas, and then we go on the road against San Fran, and we got the Chargers. Then we got a bye. Week 7 is the bye. If he ain't showed up by week 7, he's not gonna show up at all. So it's first. If I'm me being a Dallas fan, we need to go at least 3-2 in the first 5 weeks or 4-1. Anything less is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think the big thing that's going to help him is last year, the other than really CeeDee Lamb, there wasn't really much for Dak to throw to, because Gallup was still hurt. He didn't really have that number 2 to go to. Noah Brown, yes, he had flashes here and there, but he still had a bunch of drop passes. But now you get a veteran guy like a Brandon Cooks, who's more versatile going down the field. You have Jalen Tolbert, who is in year 2 and is vastly improved.
Yeah.
You have the young tight ends who broke out at the end of the year last year, who I think are going to be big for him. And, Pollard as well. Pollard's going to have a good year. Dowdle improved a lot, and you're going to have Deuce Vaughn. So he's got weapons around him now.
Exactly, and I think people are making too much out of McCarthy. Hey, he's going to call plays, but he called plays when they ran that Super Bowl run, and I think that Texas Coast offense is what they call it, But I think that is going to be helpful for Dak because it does give him less to have to read. He doesn't have to sit there and go through all his reads. He knows where he's going with the ball, and then he's got his secondary read. And that's basically it. And then you got the dump off, where you dump it off to the receiver.
I got one hot question.
Okay, and I think it's going to make it easier. And like you said, he didn't have the weapons he has this year. He has probably one of the best teams he's had in a long time on both sides of the ball, considering that the defense is probably going to be at very least a top 5 defense.
I was going to say, Flo knows throughout history the Cowboys have only had one or the other. They've either had a good defense and a bad offense, or they've had a great offense and a bad defense.
And the one time
they never had both.
When the one time we had both, we won 3 Super Bowls, because people forget Troy Aikman had one year he had the number 1 defense, and the other years was top 5.
Everybody forgets about that defense.
Exactly,
in the 90s.
We had the top 5
really
defense.
good.
Exactly, and people forget about that. And he had a top 5 defense, number 1 defense one year, that we won one of those Super Bowls. And I think this year's the best. Even when we had Romo, we never really had a great defense. And for the first 3 or 4 years, he carried the team. But I think that this is the first year.
Other than when you had 94 out there rushing everybody, that was pretty much it. He was really the only defensive
this is the first year that we've had great players and on both sides of the ball, where we could be a top 5 defense and possibly a top 5 offense, or pretty close to it. I mean, this is one of the first years since those 90s that we have playmakers on both sides of the ball like we have right now.
And you look at the trend the last couple of years, all the stuff that hasn't happened since the 90s, first road playoff win, first time they've gone back-to-back 12-win seasons, that hasn't happened since the Jimmy Johnson era. A lot of things that they haven't done since that time, and you're starting to see an elevation. Plus, Mike McCarthy has, again, like you said, people shit on Mike McCarthy because, his play calling isn't the best. I get that, and he had a bad rap at the end of his career in Green Bay.
Right,
we get that.
Yeah, him and Derek get along.
But you look at his tenure here in Dallas so far. Obviously, 2020 was god awful. That was god awful for everybody. But as the years got on, he's gradually improved. Aside from the penalties in 2021, that was awful. But he's gradually improved as a head coach as the years go by. So this could be the best Mike McCarthy we see as far as Cowboy fans. So
yeah, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. And I here's another thing, and I think and I've had this mantra for a while. I talk about it on my show on the Bottom Line Sports. If you look at historically, especially I would say in the last 10 to 15 years, when a quarterback gets paid, they have a down year. They're not as good as the year before.
It's a huge decline, a steep decline.
Look at when Dak got paid, he had a down. Even when Mahomes got paid, he had for Mahomes, it was a down year. And so
Watson,
I think Jalen's going to have a down year. I think he's going to be
Jalen and Daniel. I think Daniel Jones is going to get exposed this year.
He's the only exception. I don't know why, but Daniel.
You got faith in him?
I like Dayball. That's why. And I think
he's offensive mind.
Well, I think also it's gonna. I think the schedule is gonna impact Daniel Jones a little bit more this year because it's gonna be tougher.
Yeah, it will be. But I'm saying, look what he did with Josh Allen, and since he's left, Josh Allen has steadily gone downhill. Not as good as he was with Dayball, and I think Dayball does a great job, and he's gonna get the most out of Daniel Jones. I think Daniel. I don't think he steps back. I think he has a pretty much the same or slightly better than. He's the only one that, for me this year, that has the exception of that having a down year after he gets paid. Lamar, I think, is going to have a down year. So I think Jalen is going to have a down year.
And so let me ask.
Go ahead.
Do you think Joe Burrow is going to have a down year?
Now I think he got paid. I think
he also got hurt. He also got hurt.
Yeah, I'm saying I don't know. It's something about getting paid. I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know what it is.
That's why Tom Brady never took the max deal.
He never did.
So, Flo, in your mind right now, which NFL quarterback do you think is going to have a top tier year? Minus whether it's money involved or not. which quarterback besides all the ones we named you feel has the caliber to go the distance this season?
Aaron Rodgers.
You mean as a
Aaron
Super
Rodgers.
Bowl or just a good year, a great year?
Good year, contender.
Aaron Rodgers with the Jets.
Going.
Aaron Rodgers with the Jets.
You there?
And seeing you and I said it earlier, we think that the Jets are going to beat down Buffalo on Monday night.
They'll kill Buffalo Monday night.
I don't know. I think the Jets have some adjustments to make still. I think their offensive line is still kind of I don't know if that offensive line is going to hold up for him. I think that'll be a good game though with the Bills. I think I took the Bills that game, but I'm not sure.
I'll give you a quarterback that I think is quietly going to have a really, really good year that nobody's really going to talk about. Sam Howell in Washington.
I like
Flo. No.
Sam Howell.
Did you say that or Jake? Which one of y'all said Sam Howell?
Jake said that. Jake said that.
Okay. Now, hey, you think
Jake
so?
said that.
I like him. I like him.
This is the one.
I think literally was pissed off when he played good against us week 18 last year.
I think this is the thing with Sam. I think he's still a year away from being that guy.
He has good weapons. He has good weapons around him.
Yeah, but I think he's still a year away.
Eric Bieniemy as an offensive coordinator, I think is going to help him out a lot.
But that was Andy Reid's offense.
If Chase Young stays healthy, that defense will be better too.
They didn't pick up his.
I think they'll be better. I think they'll be better than the Giants. I think they'll be better than the Giants this year.
Oh, I don't know.
You think the Commanders?
Huh?
Will be better than the Giants?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I
think the Giants are going to fall off a little bit this year.
I think the Giants will be exactly where they were last year, a borderline playoff team, and they may or may not make the playoffs.
Lost best center in Zeke. Wow.
Oh, who's that? Nice that Steve-O said Cowboys.
Oh, you trying to joke, huh? You trying to play jokes? Okay.
That's okay. He can go, eat his way. He can go eat his way out of New England.
Hey, Colorado exposing them,
man.
I will say this: since we are playing New York on Sunday, who are some of the guys for the Giants that you kind of might be key in this game for them on tomorrow night? I mean, obviously Saquon Barkley's the big one.
Right,
Barkley's the big one for sure.
Yeah, I don't even know who their receivers and stuff are, man.
I think
they made the trade for Darren Waller. I think Darren Waller could have a big impact right away.
Right.
Yeah,
I think
Thibodeau in year 2. I think he could take that next step.
I think Adoree Jackson, the cornerback on CeeDee Lamb, see how he does against him. I think if he has a good game, if he follows him around and travels with CeeDee Lamb, maybe he can try and help kind of keep CeeDee from getting those big plays. I think he was injured one game where we played him last year, and so I think that secondary is gonna be key for them if they want to win this game. They have to be able to get all those playmakers and tackle in space and that kind of thing. Giants played more cover 1 and cover 0 than any other team, and that could burn them if that's the way they're gonna run it. Their cornerbacks are gonna have to play, one-on-one a little bit and be out there on an island. And we'll see. I mean, Wink Martindale, he likes doing that. He likes doing one-on-one coverage, and he likes blitzing. I mean, I think they blitzed more than any other team in the NFL last year.
I think that's kind of Wink Martindale. That was the guy that did get enough credit for their season last year was Wink Martindale. He did a really good job of that defense last year.
Yeah, he did, and that's kind of the way he likes to play. But I think we've got better skill players this year than we did last year. And if he continues to do that, they might get burns. But if those guys can cover, and be able to be out there on an island and play well against our receivers, then they could have a good game. And so that'll be key for them, I think. And then, of course, protecting Daniel Jones. That offensive line was one of the worst last year, except for that left tackle Thomas, who had an All-Pro season. But the rest of that line struggled. They weren't very good last year, and I think, they're gonna probably put Thomas, they're gonna probably put Micah off of Thomas, and try and get some mismatches with the other guys, and so they may have to double him, and that could open up for DeMarcus Lawrence. But I think that secondary is going to be tested with the 3 receivers that we have. Even if you can go
those guys.
Yeah, they're going to be tested because those guys can operate in space, and Gallup is looking more like Michael Gallup of his first year or two. And so I think that secondary is going to be key for them to win this game if they want to win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like you're saying, Adoree Jackson might be a guy that could have to have a big game. I think Thibodeau will have to have a big game too to get a pass rush on Dak for them to have success on defense as well.
Right.
So
yeah, and our offensive line is banged up a little. I think is it Tyron Smith is out?
I think Tyron's a little
Tyron Smith.
gimpy. I think he's still playing, but I think he's a little gimpy.
Right.
But
so we're a little banged up on the line, so that could be a factor. But I like this Texas Coast offense is going to be quick plays, slants, quick plays, spread out the defense,
open up defense a little bit.
Get them in space. Spread the defense out so you're not so congested, and get those guys, those skill players in place. So it's going to be a chess match, against them and us, and see if they can tackle in space. If they can tackle in space, they'll have a good game on defense. But we'll see what happens if they can tackle our wide receivers, and they'll have a decent game. If they can't, then we're going to have some big plays for sure.
So before we end off here, guys, give me your final score prediction for Sunday night. Canteen, I'll start with you.
Oh, hey, what's the spread, Flo? Give me the spread. You got to give me the spread.
3.5 Dallas favorite.
It's 3.5 Dallas.
3.5 Dallas.
In New York or in New Jersey, wherever they play.
In New York, New Jersey, wherever it is.
Yeah.
Is that, so they playing MetLife?
Yeah, they're playing MetLife.
That's crazy.
But
they're gonna have
and we're favorites.
Here's a crazy question, guys. They're gonna have the Giants there.
They're gonna have the Giants in MetLife, and then they have the Jets on at home. So
how the hell do they paint the field and do all that? I don't know. That's above my.
You ain't got to worry about that, man. Just give us a score,
they'll probably
man.
just keep it like the NFL logo in the middle, and they'll just quickly turn the end zones from blue to green.
Green. All right. What I predict, I'm gonna go Dallas 34.
Woo.
Dallas 34, Giants 27.
Okay.
Dallas go by 7. I like all the hate. I like all the naysayers. I like all the talk against Dak. I think Dak Prescott will come out and show out. When he come to play, he played. Like if you guys recaveat the game when Dallas played Tampa Bay Monday, I think it was Monday night playoffs. It was the playoffs. That playoff game,
he played well.
He comes to play when his mind is all in the game.
Right. And I think we win that game if Pollard doesn't get hurt against the Niners. That was a big blow. That changed the whole tenor of that game. Losing Pollard like that, I mean, that was big for us.
I'm going 27, 34, DC for life.
Let's go.
But I
what you got?
Oh, man.
Don't do it.
My caveat, is that Daniel Jones is the only guy who got paid is not going to take a step back. I'm not saying he's going to have a better season. He's going to have an equivalent season at the very least. And so he'll play well, but I think he'll be under duress quite a bit. That offensive line is going to be tough on him but he's got good legs, good movement. So he'll have a couple of big plays running it, but I think overall he's going to be under duress quite a bit. And I think that's going to help us out. And I think early on, our playmakers make some plays. I think that, our defense, our running back stable is going to do well. I think Deuce Vaughn has a couple of breakaway type plays. I think Pollard, we'll see when he comes back off the injury. So I'm interested to see if he can still has that burst that he had. So I'm hoping that he does really well. I don't want them to overuse him, so I want them to use the stable of backs because he's still recovering. Really, I mean, he's not. I don't think he's back to Pollard. So I think they should bring him in slowly and use all those stables of running backs. I think Dak's gonna be motivated. He's tired of, he had like a whole week of questions about Trey Lance, who's technically the third string quarterback. So it's I think he's a little frustrated, but motivated at the same time. So I think usually when Dak is motivated like that, I think he plays well. And I think he's tired of hearing all the talk of the interceptions and all this. So I think he's going to be a little more careful and cautious, but he's still going to try and play well. I think we do well on the road. This is a big game. I think he's 10-0 in the last 10 games. He's 10-0. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys. It's going to be a good game, but I think not quite as high scoring as Canteen. But I think it'll be close early, and I think we pull away in the second half. I think it'll be something like 31-20 Cowboys. Let's go.
Oh!
31-20.
31-20.
Hey, so you got 10.
11, really. Yeah, I'll give it a point.
I think it's gonna be not as close as people think. I know people think that maybe the Giants have a shot.
You think that was
to win
close? 31-20? Is that close?
Well, 7-11. It's kind of iffy. That'll probably be around what some people think. I know some people are thinking it might be a little bit closer because the Giants do have Darren Waller now. So Daniel Jones does have a security.
I think he got hurt.
I don't know. I didn't see anything.
Check it. I think I saw he was injured. But go ahead. Sorry.
But I think, that security blanket now I think helps him.
Questionable.
But here's the thing. I don't think it's going to be close at all. I think the defense is going to ball out. I think Dan Quinn is going to be motivated week 1 to show why this defense is the best in the NFL. Micah now being a full-time pass rusher, I think is going to have a big impact already. You're going to see the secondary make a few plays. I know the linebacker depth is not the best, especially with Overshawn being out now. I'm going to say 38. I'm going to say 38-17.
Ooh, whoa. We'll blow them out.
Hey, Flo, write this down now. So when we talk tomorrow, you got mine, you got his. Go ahead. What you say, Alan?
Let me write it down because I didn't. Okay, hold on.
Hey, because I'm going to tell you about Flo, Alan. Flo like to record stuff, but every time he be wrong, he can't take he wrong. I predicted the game.
What are you talking about? I always say. Hey, I show. Remember that time when Les was trying to play me, and I showed up. I showed up when we lost. I show up, man. I don't say nothing.
I show up too.
Exactly what I'm talking about. Jake's the one that don't show up.
Yeah, Jake. Hey, I'm telling you, if Jake don't lose tomorrow, you already know it's gonna be me, you, and Omar. You know that.
Yeah. What'd you say, Alan? 38 what?
38-17.
Ooh, and you said 34 what? Canteen 34-27. Something like that.
Yeah, 7-point game.
Okay.
I think I
said
know you said
31-20.
Daniel Jones probably won't regress as much, but I think the tougher schedule is going to get to him this year.
Well, eventually, I think he will. That's why I think he has. I think he does. Even if he does a little better, I think because of the schedule, the team itself is still going to be about the same.
I just think with Parsons is going to be motivated right out of the gate, and Dak's going to go have a big game. So,
okay. I don't think it'll be that much. I think
Omar in the chat. Omar in the chat.
What does it say?
Let him know, Canteen. Let him know.
Okay. Let him know.
I already told him. Omar, no. Hey, if Jake lose tomorrow, just like that. I'm telling you. I like the Raiders tomorrow over them.
Raiders? Are you like? Okay. Let's go.
Come on. Hey, man.
Kind of give an upset alert right now. Baylor is up 13-6 in the fourth quarter.
Let's go.
Hey. Colorado, they killing what's the name,
What's
man?
Up,
Colorado
Omar?
is killing Nebraska.
Yeah.
23-7 right now.
Yeah, they're pulling away now.
Man,
Kansas State's only up 28-13 on Troy, so that could be another potential.
And what about who's Tulane playing? That's supposed to be a good game.
Miss.
I heard Tulane might give them a game. Mm-hmm. That's what I was hearing.
Did Georgia win today?
Georgia's up 45-3.
What's up, Omar, the professor, the sports professor?
Hello.
Go ahead. Yeah.
45-3.
Hey, this is my show, sir.
Hey,
it's our show, man. We're gonna be on every week, right?
Hey, man, listen, Omar, we ready for tomorrow.
Are we coming on every week,
baby?
Is that right, Alan? We're gonna come on every week.
Yeah. Yeah. This will be. We're still working out on the time. This will be time worked out. Obviously, for right now, will be 2 p.m. Eastern. Okay. I might be transitioning jobs pretty soon, so I'll have to get with you guys on that if that happens. Right. But for now, it will be 2 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. We'll preview all 17 games. It's going to be fun. I can't wait.
Bottom line,
you need all the games before we get off.
Also, Cowboys.
Also, this to Steve's credit here. Yes, Bosa got the bag, but Parsons is probably going to get paid more. I'll just say that right now. He probably
will get paid more. Yeah, he's going to be reset the limit.
Let's go. All the games now,
baby.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us again. This will be on every Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern. Myself, Canteen, and Flo will be talking Dallas Cowboys all season long.
Let's
It's gonna be
go.
awesome. Sunday night football tomorrow night. I believe I'll be on
Cowboys?
both. I believe I'll be on both pregame and postgame shows for Sunday Night Football on Let's Talk Sports tomorrow night. So definitely check that out. Bunch of other stuff we got going on, roundtable shows and everything. Shout out to Dan Harris, of course.
Shout out to Dan.
Everything he does for this network and for everybody else in the community. So
we're praying for you, brother.
And glad to have you back too, by the way, Dan. Dan has been back for the last few days, so it's been awesome to having him back. But for Flo, for Canteen, thank you to the Bottom Line Sports crew for joining me today. My name is Alan. See you guys next Saturday for Let's Talk Dallas.
Go Cowboys! Let's go!